Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, April 8, 2025, time in Texas, about 4 p.m. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. And thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. And thank you, Kim C., for extra support of my channel. And also, Leisha E. And now we're going to be talking about war, or a run-up to an actual war. We hope not, but we're seeing pieces put on the table. This will be the U.S. versus China and the cartels. I'll cover the Middle East in a separate video. So we have President Trump ramping up tariffs to make trade with America fair for America, fair for American workers. And we had on April 7, yesterday, about 4 p.m., we have China. So China cut shipments to the U.S. of rare earth minerals the U.S. needs for technology and military weapons. So we see China making moves. Now Breitbart has come out with this. So we're seeing the CCP inside the U.S., and we know that many of the Dems and also the rhinos are on the payroll of the CCP. A recent study came out. This is the Twitter version for the left, called Blue Sky. It was a study of 1,200 adults, mostly Dems and some rhinos. The name of the study is Network Contagion Research Institute. 55% of the Dems and rhinos, out of a survey of 1,200 adults, 55% believe it's okay to assassinate President Trump and Elon Musk. We see mush, and I'm not talking about the recent Iditarod, but mush in the head. Okay, Hal Turner. Okay, so now we have this coming out from talking about assassinations from the DOJ. We have new information regarding the second, so from the DOJ, that was the second try on President Trump that happened in August of 2024 at his golf course in Florida. And the assailant was Ryan Root, and at the time when I covered it, there was evidence that he appeared to be a CIA operative who went back and forth between the U.S. and Ukraine. And now it's coming out from President Trump's Attorney General Pam Boondi's group that Ryan Root had on his phone encrypted messages, and the Signal software app that we recently heard about with that Signal and the chat with the Secretary of State, I think Marco Rubio was on there, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and other people, and allegedly a reporter from The Atlantic. They were using what had been described as government-approved software Signal to be safe for government communications, and it was already downloaded on the phones the government gave to its employees. Signal. Well, this individual, Ryan Root, who tried to assassinate President Trump in August, had a phone, appears to be a government phone, that had Signal on it. And part of the messages included Root trying to get from Ukraine a grenade launcher and Stinger missiles. So it's believed he was going to try to take President Trump out that way. But that's more evidence. That's incriminating for certain elements of the U.S. government, including in August of 2024, the JBKH show. So that's going on. Now we have this from Breitbart. So we've been hearing in the past few days the U.S. Gonna charge tariffs to China, China retaliating. So I believe President Trump initially said he was going to charge, so the U.S. was going to charge China a tariff, and it sounded like 10 to 20% on certain goods. Well, China said, well, if you do that, then China said, we're going to go up to 34% tariff on U.S. products. Then President Trump said, well, the U.S. is going to add 50% to our tariff. Now we're up to the U.S. charging China 104% tariff. Way to go, President Trump. So Breitbart reports, President Trump to China, your tariffs are now 104%, effective April 8, Tuesday at midnight. And whereas the U.S., yes, had said initially 10 to 20, and China said, no, we're going to charge you 34. So we're seeing the tariff war off and running. And we have this from Hal Turner. China is retaliating against the tariffs. And this happened April 8. Yeah. Take the U.S. tariffs against China up to 104%. Now, some other details China put forth in its retaliation against the U.S. Number one, we will put tariffs on U.S. agricultural products, soy and sorghum. Number two, we will ban all U.S. chicken products to China. Number three, we will suspend U.S.-China cooperation regarding fentanyl. Number four, China will counter the U.S. services industries, in other words, tech properties. Number five, China will ban all imports of U.S. films. And number six, China may move to confiscate and seize all U.S. companies operating inside China and seize all intellectual property. So that's going on. And now we have this coming out from Breitbart. CCP has put out an edict, and China just last month passed a law, and the regulations go into effect May 1 to stop all Christian foreign missionaries from preaching or organizing anything without CCP okay. And the China media puts out CCP's crackdown on Christian missionaries, foreign Christian missionaries, is part of China's national security. Now, the CCP has put forth a public statement stating that foreign Christian missionaries pose a national threat for security to China, and the CCP puts forth that the people of China should actually worship the CCP. Their loyalty, number one, should be to the CCP, superseding all other beliefs and credos. So the CCP and China sets itself up as God. So that's going on. And now we have this, NBC. So now, President Trump and the U.S. military are putting forth that the greatest national security threats to the U.S. currently are China and the cartels. So the U.S. military being put forth by President Trump, supported by Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, is a move to reduce the number of troops in Europe, specifically Poland and Romania, by 50%. It's put forth. We currently have about 80,000 in Poland and Romania right now. That goes along with the report I put out a few videos back. The President Trump was thinking about moving 35,000 troops from Europe. So it's been increased now, with the plan being to return those troops from Europe back to the U.S. because the primary military threat, as determined by President Trump and the U.S. military, is on the homeland, China, and the cartels. So that's going on. And we have confirmed today a Deputy Secretary of Defense, Elbridge Colby, who puts forth the same statements as President Trump and Pete Hegseth. We need to bring the troops home from Europe to defend the homeland. And now we have this. Last month in March, China passed a new law. Apparently, China could see the handwriting on the wall regarding U.S. tariffs. And the law says China can seize all intellectual property rights of all U.S. companies operating inside China and their products. And this poses for China a national security threat. Therefore, China, under certain circumstances, to counter tariffs. And this law passed in March. So to counter tariffs, China can seize all of the intellectual property rights and products. Now, how Turner's intel is that U.S. companies operating inside China, of course, they all have computers with software on them. Those computers require, on a monthly basis, a software authorization put forth by the company. If it doesn't go onto the computers, they shut down and don't work. So we could say a little built-in self-defense for the U.S. companies operating inside China. Now we have this from Fox. Excuse me. We have a Republican from California, Darrell Issa, and 13 others who are sponsoring a bill No Rogue Rulings Act. That's to tap down these rogue judges we've been seeing operating outside their constitutional power and authority to control the executive branch. So a new law is being put forth. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was recently interviewed on Fox News by Hannity. So information is coming out. So what this new law would do would limit the authority these judges have to issue injunctive orders, or to stop what President Trump is putting forth. So this is a bill that's being put forth March 25, has to go through committees, the House vote, then Senate vote. I anticipate that bill will have a speedy pass-through. Now we have Breitbart. Recently, this week, we had 3 Supreme Court decisions go in the favor of President Trump. 2 of them are the Supreme Court will blocks the lower court order that would stop President Trump from firing federal employees. The Supreme Court now backs President Trump. Yes, he has the right to fire federal employees under the executive branch under our Constitution. So that happened Tuesday, March 8th. And also, recently, the Supreme Court supported President Trump's use of the 1798 Alien Eagles Enemies Law to deport illegals. This concludes my flash. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.